What is up, you magnificent nerds, and welcome back to the Nerd Flame, your one-stop shop for all the cinematic secrets and pop culture fire you can handle. I am Mr. Flame, and today we are diving headfirst into the rumor mill, specifically the one churning out the juiciest, most soul-crushing, and ultimately most exciting news coming out of the animation giant, that is Pixar. Because if the past few years have taught us anything, it is that the classic formulas are being dusted off and hyped for a new generation, with whispers of long-awaited sequels and bold reboots sending shockwaves through the fandom. So grab your theoretical popcorn, because we are about to discuss the massive, world-altering announcements that are making 2026, 2027, and 2028 the most anticipated years in animation history, and confirming that the golden era of emotional storytelling is far from over and is ready to generate major clicks. The sheer, overwhelming success of watching Riley's mind evolve across two films has set an impossibly high bar. But the whispers we are hearing about the psychological depth being explored in the next installment are simply mind-bending. Because as we speculate about her transition into early adulthood, perhaps navigating the treacherous waters of her first serious career choice, or the complexities of a long-term relationship, the real hype centers around the introduction of entirely new, much more nuanced shades of the human condition that were only hinted at previously. Fans are desperately hoping for the appearance of emotions like guilt, a heavy, cloaked figure that could fundamentally alter the entire control panel dynamic, or maybe a much more existential apathy, which could present the core emotions with a crisis far greater than just a bad day at school, forcing joy and sadness to work together on a truly profound level just to keep the lights on and the person moving forward, cementing this sequel as potentially the deepest exploration of the human psyche ever attempted in a family film, and solidifying Pixar's reputation as a studio unafraid to tackle the heaviest themes with beautiful animation. The initial concepts floating around suggest a visual expansion beyond the main headquarters, with new, unexplored territories within the mind being opened up, representing the subconscious and the unconscious drives that Riley herself is not even aware of. A literal mental subterranean world filled with forgotten memories and repressed feelings that could easily spawn an entire new franchise just from the side characters inhabiting this darker realm. And if the rumors hold true, the visual style for these newly introduced emotions and locations will be dramatically different, perhaps more abstract or even unsettling, reflecting the genuine anxiety and emotional turmoil that comes with truly growing up, moving beyond the simple anxieties of youth and into the deeper, more structural neuroses of adult life. The production itself is shrouded in secrecy, only fueling the rampant speculation online, with every major fan theory having a dedicated thread dissecting every single frame of the teaser images that supposedly leaked a few months ago, proving that audiences are not just ready for more, they are demanding a more challenging narrative that reflects their own evolving emotional landscape and the current psychological state of the world, a narrative that truly speaks to the experience of a generation grappling with a complicated future. So let us all hope the creative team is prepared to meet this massive wave of critical expectation head-on, because this film carries the weight of an entire fan base's emotional maturity on its back. Inside Out 3. Let us not forget the massive void left by the potential absence of some fan-favorite characters, prompting intense debate about which classic emotions will take a back seat, or if any will be completely sidelined to make room for the new players, which would be a bold and potentially controversial narrative choice that would definitely spark 1,000 new YouTube reaction videos and think pieces. But the creative team at Pixar has always been masters of the elegant pivot capable of making those tough decisions feel not only organic, but absolutely essential to the narrative integrity of the overall story arc. And this next chapter demands a shakeup of the internal status quo to genuinely reflect the chaos of a 20-something mind, suggesting a fascinating power struggle within headquarters, potentially with the newly introduced complex emotions challenging Joy's long-held dominance of the control panel, forcing her to realize that she is not always the most appropriate voice to guide Riley through every single situation she faces. A powerful metaphor for the adult realization that happiness is not always the goal, and other, more measured feelings have their necessary place in a functional mind, which is exactly the kind of deep, thought-provoking material that the fans are craving and demanding in the most vocal way possible. The level of anticipation is almost palpable, with every frame of the animated world holding such significance for so many people who see their own inner lives reflected in this stunningly simple but complex concept. And the rumor of a much more cinematic and darker score being composed for this installment suggests a shift in tone towards something that feels less like a children's adventure and more like a profound psychological thriller, which would be a massive and welcome departure from the established soundscape, elevating the entire experience to something truly epic, almost a mental health opera. And the sheer speculation around the film's potential box office performance is already setting records in the industry, proving that this franchise is not just about toys or cars or fish, but about the fundamental human experience of feeling things deeply, which is a universal language that will always resonate with massive global audiences, a testament to the power of original ideas that explore the messy, beautiful reality of our minds in a way that is both accessible and deeply moving. So the hype is real and growing every single day. The announcement that they are going to this well again was met with both ecstatic cheers and a considerable amount of cynical eye-rolling, with the general sentiment among the older fan base being a resounding "why? Can we just let Woody and the gang have their perfect ending?" But the smart money and the serious rumors suggest that this next chapter is not a cash grab, but a deeply personal, almost required narrative that brings the entire saga full circle, focusing not on a new owner or a new kid, but a more existential crisis for the toys themselves as they confront the ultimate question of their purpose in a rapidly changing, digital world, where the very concept of a physical toy is becoming increasingly obsolete, forcing them to define their own meaning without the constant presence of a child. This setup is instantly intriguing, providing a fresh, complex layer to a story that many thought had already said everything it needed to say about growing up and letting go. There have been incredibly strong reports circulating that this installment will heavily feature the return of characters we have missed, with key voice actors being contacted and schedules being shuffled around for recording, especially the characters from the earlier films that were perhaps marginalized in the last two outings, hinting at a truly massive ensemble adventure that brings the entire extended toy family back together for one last glorious hurrah, which is exactly what the fans have been begging for since the fourth film made some divisive choices about the main character's trajectory. So the promise of a full cast reunion is enough to justify the entire production budget alone, and the sheer nostalgic power of seeing those beloved original toys back in action, solving a massive problem together one final time, is a guaranteed emotional tidal wave for multiple generations of viewers who grew up alongside this incredible franchise, making the potential for an all-time great animated film a very real possibility, provided the script lives up to the monumental expectations. Toy Story 5. The speculation surrounding the main antagonist of the film is just as intense, with rumors suggesting that the villain will not be a new toy or a disgruntled human, but a metaphysical concept, perhaps a literal representation of obsolescence, maybe a digital entity that threatens to erase the physical memories of the toys from existence, forcing Woody and Buzz to cross into a virtual world to save their friends, which would be an absolutely massive and visually stunning departure from the grounded, physical reality of the previous movies. allowing the animation team to go completely wild with abstract, almost Tron-like visuals inside the digital landscape, pushing the boundaries of what is possible in computer animation yet again, proving that even a 25-year-old franchise can still feel utterly fresh and revolutionary with the right creative vision at the helm, which is the kind of massive risk-taking that made Pixar famous in the first place, and what the Nerd Flame community lives for, because we crave those massive narrative swings that change everything. The focus on the relationship between Buzz and Woody is rumored to be the emotional core of this new adventure, with the two friends finding themselves on opposite sides of the debate about the future of their kind, a genuine philosophical disagreement about whether they should embrace the new digital reality or hold onto the purity of their physical form, which could lead to some incredibly powerful and heart-wrenching dramatic moments that test the very limits of their decades-long friendship. A conflict that feels incredibly timely given the current cultural discussion about technology and its impact on traditional institutions and relationships, making the toys struggle an almost perfect allegory for the modern human experience. And this kind of metatextual storytelling is what elevates a simple family film into a true piece of art, capable of being analyzed and discussed for years to come, cementing the enduring legacy of this monumental cinematic achievement that is far more than just a series of kids' films, but a genuine cultural phenomenon. The idea of bringing back this absolute classic from the early days of the studio is a pure stroke of genius, because it is a film that has been quietly waiting for a modern-day reimagining, a property ripe for the kind of massive, large-scale, epic world-building that the current technology can deliver, turning the microscopic world of the ant colony and the menacing grasshoppers into a genuine cinematic spectacle, elevating the threat from a simple bully problem into a full-blown existential conflict for survival, something akin to a fantasy epic, but viewed through the lens of tiny six-legged creatures and the initial concept art leaks, which I am not allowed to show you, but trust me, they are out there, suggest a massive shift in scale and a much more photorealistic approach to the animation, making the threat of the harsh natural world feel absolutely terrifyingly real for our tiny heroes, promising a visually breathtaking experience that will completely redefine what we expect from miniature world animation in a way that the original, while brilliant for its time, simply could not achieve due to the limitations of its era's hardware. The narrative rumors surrounding the sequel, which we believe will be titled with a slightly more mature and expansive tone, revolve around Flick and Princess Ada, now king and queen of the ant colony, having to confront a threat that comes not from the external world of the grasshoppers, but from within their own society, perhaps a rigid adherence to tradition that stifles innovation, or a new generation of ants who question the necessity of their rigid social structure, leading to a much more politically and socially charged narrative than the simple David versus Goliath story of the original, a sophisticated layer that speaks to the difficulties of leadership and the challenges of progressive thought within an established hierarchy, a fascinating development that could provide a truly deep and thought-provoking story for the adults in the audience, while still maintaining the thrilling adventure elements for the younger viewers, which is the essential Pixar magic that makes their films universally loved and critically acclaimed, confirming that they are not afraid to use these beloved characters to explore complex societal themes in a meaningful way. A Bug's Life, the new colony, the fan casting and demand for the return of the original voice actors for the circus bugs, arguably the most memorable element of the first film, is deafening, with petitions circulating online for every single member of the original ensemble to be brought back, because those characters were the absolute heart and soul of the picture, and the sequel absolutely demands a massive, hilarious, and ultimately heroic return for them, perhaps finding them on a global tour, bringing their bizarre, wonderful show to new insect colonies around the world, before being called back for the final epic battle to save the home nest, which would provide the perfect narrative excuse for a visually spectacular world-hopping adventure, expanding the scope of the insect world far beyond the original's relatively confined setting, and the rumors of a darker, much more intense final confrontation with a formidable, newly evolved predator that makes Hopper look like a friendly garden gnome are truly terrifying and exciting in equal measure, setting the stage for a grand, epic finale that will leave audiences absolutely breathless and cement this franchise's return to the top tier of animation. The entire prospect of a technologically updated, emotionally complex, and thematically richer sequel to this overlooked classic is exactly what the community needed: a huge dose of pure, unadulterated hype for a property that deserves a second life, and the sheer potential for visual spectacle is almost limitless. Imagining a fully rendered, hyper-detailed world of dewdrops that look like massive, deadly spheres of water and blades of grass that feel like towering skyscrapers to our tiny protagonists, transforming the simple backyard setting into a truly alien and wondrous landscape for an entirely new generation of filmgoers to discover and fall in love with, proving that there is still so much rich, unexplored territory within the Pixar vault, waiting for the right creative moment to be brought back into the spotlight and be given a massive budget to fully realize its potential. So let us keep those collective fingers crossed that all these wonderful rumors turn out to be completely true, because the cinematic world of Tiny Heroes deserves to be this massive and spectacular in the modern era of animation. So there you have it, you magnificent Nerd Flame subscribers. The roadmap for the next 3 years of animated, soul-crushing, and world-altering cinema is laid out right before your very eyes, proving that the masters of emotional storytelling at Pixar are not slowing down, but are instead gearing up for a truly legendary run of sequels, reboots, and follow-ups that promise to challenge our expectations and tug at our heartstrings in ways we cannot even imagine right now. And the sheer weight of anticipation for these films is a testament to the enduring power of these stories that we all grew up with, reminding us that no matter how old we get, there is always room for a little bit of animated magic in our lives, especially when the hype is this incredibly real and this incredibly deserved for some of the biggest cinematic properties in the world. Now listen up! You need to tell me which one of these announced or rumored films you are most hyped for down in the comments section below. Let the Nerd Flame community know what other franchise you think deserves a massive cinematic revival. And do not forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into the absolute hottest, most electric secrets of the movie and pop culture universe.
I didn't know this was even possible. I learned how to make money online. The link is right below in the first pinned comment.